It turns out that a number of people throughout history have mysteriously disappeared. Some were famous when they went missing and became even more legendary afterward, and some reached celebrity status simply because they disappeared. Here are 5 strange tales of people whose disappearances still haunt us today. Jimmy Hoffa. Savvy, smart, and no-nonsense, Jimmy Hoffa started out as a union organizer and by 1958 had climbed the ranks to become the president of the Teamsters, the largest labor union in the United States. It was widely known that many of the Teamsters' dealings were deeply corrupt. He was avidly pursued by federal authorities, whom he managed to evade until 1964, when he was sent to federal prison for jury tampering and a host of other crimes. Even from behind bars, it seemed that Hoffa succeeded in controlling Teamster activities. He was released in 1971 under the condition that he would steer clear of union activities. On July 30, 1975, Hoffa went to a restaurant in suburban Detroit for what is thought to have been a meeting with Teamster officials. He was never seen again and was legally declared presumed dead in 1982. His remains one of the most compelling mysterious disappearances of the 20th century. Raoul Wallenberg. Raoul Wallenberg was from a well-connected and upstanding Swedish family. He'd been a star student of architecture and became a successful businessman. Because of his family and business connections throughout Europe, he was recruited as a special envoy for a major rescue operation of Hungarian Jews in 1944. Between March and June of that year, the Nazis had deported about 400,000 Jews, most of them to the Auschwitz death camp. Wallenberg distributed documents to the Jews of Budapest and convinced Hungarian authorities to let the documentation function as passports. Those passports saved some 15,000 Jews from certain death. In January of 1945, Wallenberg was arrested for unknown reasons by Soviet troops, who later claimed he died of a heart attack in 1947. But no one knows for sure if he died then or what happened to him after his arrest. Wallace D Fard. Wallace D Fard, the founder of the Nation of Islam, rose from being a silk peddler on the streets of Detroit to become a preacher and self-identified savior of the African American people. He had a short but influential stint as the outspoken Noi leader in Detroit from 1930 to 1934, with a number of run-ins with the law during that time. Very little documented biographical information about him exists, though several stories about his origins circulate. He claimed to have been born in Mecca, though the FBI's findings suggest that he was born in New Zealand and led the life of a minor scofflaw once he arrived in the United States. He disappeared in 1934. Often referred to as the Prophet and thought to be the incarnation of Allah by followers of the Nation of Islam, he is celebrated each year on February 26, Savior's Day. George Mallory. George Mallory was a schoolmaster in England and a seasoned mountain climber. He had trained on the most difficult routes up the Alps before being recruited for the first major climbing expedition up Mount Everest in 1921. That first attempt was thwarted by high winds, and a second attempt in 1922, which also failed, involved an avalanche and the death of 7 porters. Finally in 1924 he set out on a third expedition. Mallory and another climber, Andrew Irvine, went off to attempt the summit on June 8 and were never seen again. They left the world to wonder what had taken place on that fateful day, including whether before disappearing they had become the first climbers ever to reach the summit. Irvine's axe was found in 1933 at about 27,750 feet, which seemed to indicate that they did not make it to the top and likely fell to their deaths. 75 years later, in 1999, an expedition discovered Mallory's body at 26,760 feet. As of now, Irvine's remains had not been found, and the exact circumstances of their deaths are as yet undetermined. Ambrose Beers. Ambrose Beers, a newspaper and short story writer, was well known for his satirical column Prattler, which ran in a number of West Coast papers such as the San Francisco Examiner. He served in and survived the American Civil War and eventually married and had 3 children. While he continued as a newspaper columnist, he also wrote many novels and short stories as well as The Devil's Dictionary, a book of social commentary disguised as a collection of dark and witty definitions for well-known terms. He left the U.S. for Mexico about 1913, during the Mexican Revolution. After December of that year there remains no record of him, though numerous theories have been put forth over the past century. In a world full of unanswered questions, let us never stop seeking the truth behind the disappearances that have puzzled us for generations. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update from us. Thanks for watching.